When the nation joins hands to fight a common enemy, victory is certain. Though this enemy is an alien contagion, it can be no match for the fervor that unites 1.3 billion citizens. The call by the Honorable Prime Minister energy conglomerate, ONGC. Responding swiftly to the crisis arising from the coronavirus pandemic, ONGC started safety measures very early. Employees were asked to prepare and be technologically ready to face any restriction on movements. Work must go on was the intent. Employees who had been working on the offshore locations and onshore locations offered to continue working with extended duty periods away from their families. Our 24/7 operations and their commitment has ensured uninterrupted supply of oil and gas for the nation. They toil in the fields, adhering to all government guidelines of social distancing and hygiene. Giving additional impetus to these efforts, ONGC contributed 300 crore rupees from their CSR fund, and employees gave 2 days' salary amounting to around 16 crore rupees. But ONGC didn't stop there. We reached out to millions who suffered hardships due to the lockdown. All work centers of ONGC across the country distributed relief supplies to the needy and protective gear to frontline fighters like medical professionals, municipal workers, and security staff.
We at ONGC have always risen to the call of the hour. During this national crisis of COVID-19, we have maintained our offshore and onshore operations round the clock to maintain uninterrupted supply of oil and gas to the nation. While maintaining our operations, we have also ensured full compliance of Government of India as well as WHO guidelines like social distancing, maintaining personal hygiene, work from home, and maintaining operations with skilled staff to contain this pandemic. I firmly believe together we will overcome this national crisis.
Individually and collectively, these humane acts reflect the selfless, committed, responsible, proactive, and energetic spirit of the nation and also of ONGC, a responsible corporate helping every Indian fight this challenge collectively.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Yaya speaking. Can you hear us?
जो बनाए आपका भविष्य और उज्जवल। हम हैं ONGC।
On behalf of Lovraj Kumar Memorial Trust, I'm pleased to welcome our chairman, Mr. B.K. Chaturvedi, for today's guest speaker, Dr. Fatih Birol, Chairman of the Northern Regional Center of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, Dr. Nand, trustees of the trust, and all other participants. We have participants from Government of India, different government organizations, industries, academic institutions, and various professional bodies. Mr. Lovraj Kumar worked for Government of India at very senior positions. He supported indigenous R&D and facilitated involvement of scientific community with the industry. Following his untimely demise in 1994, members of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers promoted his trust in his memory. Trust has taken up several activities like organizing a memorial lecture once in a year, organizing workshops on technical subjects, and research conclaves, etc. Memorial lectures have been delivered by eminent persons in the past, and today we have invited Dr. Fatih Birol to deliver this Lovraj Kumar Memorial Lecture. The topic chosen, that is India's place in the new global energy economy, is very relevant for India. With growing aspirations of people, depleting resources, and increasing risk of climate change, finding an optimum balance is a challenge for our policymakers, industries, and scientists. So today we will have an opportunity to listen to the perspective of an expert with global recognition. Our chairman will formally introduce the speaker in a short while. The speaker has agreed to answer some questions after his talk. So please put your questions in the chat box. Please keep your systems on mute to avoid the disturbances. And I now invite our chairman to say a few words.
Well, friends, Dr. Fatih Birol, trustees, it's a great honor for me to welcome Dr. Birol. Dr. Birol has been executive director now of the IEA for nearly 6 years. He has, during this period, brought about a lot of reforms. I recall India was at that point of thinking of joining the IEA when I was member of the Planning Commission then, and now we find that we have the India and China, South Africa, and a number of other countries have joined, and this is as one of the major initiatives of Dr. Birol. He had his work in the International Energy Agency right from the beginning, worked there for more than 2 decades, was the chief economist there, and then he rose to this position of the executive director. He has been recognized the world over on many fora. He has been named by the Forbes magazine amongst the most influential people in the world and by the Financial Times in 2017. He has been given the recognition by the Japanese Emperor, Order of the Rising Sun, and Order of the Polar Star from the King of Sweden, and a number of other recognitions. Apart from recognitions, he is a very well-known person in the field of energy technology, and we are all very keen to listen to him. We have already had nearly 400 registrations so far, and many people are continue to join because they are so keen to listen to such a global expert. Now invite Dr. Birol, please deliver his lecture.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is a great pleasure and honor to attend this illustrious event today. I would like to first thank my friend, my colleague, Anil Razdan, for inviting me today. Thank you very much, Anil. And when I searched a bit, I saw that what kind of exceptional man the Lovraj Kumar has been, and therefore to speak at this memorial trust is a great honor for me. One of the reasons I was happy to attend this event is, in addition to my friend Anil asked me to do so, the Lovraj Kumar was an influential civil servant. And when I look at around, when I look at around, I see that the politicians around the world are celebrated. Businessmen celebrated and make money. Artists celebrated, many people. But when it comes to the civil servants, they make their work behind their desks, and they do it for their own country, for the public good. And it is something I value immensely. As a son of a father who served for his government several decades without expecting anything in return, I learned from him a lot, from my late father. And therefore, I have a great respect for the civil servants around the world. And I myself, working on the energy issues since decades, and I always chose to go on the way of my father, remaining a public civil servant at the international level. So as such, it's a great honor to speak at an event that we all remember, one of the most influential Indian civil servants, Mr. Lovraj Kumar. Dear colleagues, I would like to share with you, in fact, in general, two things. One, about thoughts about India in specific. And second, India is a huge country, a continent, but even India is not an energy island. What happens in the rest of the world does affect India. I want to also talk about the global picture a bit, if I may. I would like to start my words with a very nice memory, an anecdote I have in the year, in fact, two of them, if I may, in the year 2015. As Mr. Chairman mentioned, I was elected as head of the IEA in the year 2015, and I am the 7th head of this institution. Our institution is now almost 47 years old, and there were many distinguished politicians. I am the only one who is not a politician who came within the ranks. But the distinguished my colleagues before me, when they wanted to share their view about the world, at their first destination of travel, give their strategic vision speech, they have chosen Washington, D.C., or Brussels, or Tokyo, for that matter. And when I became head of the IEA, my two destinations, one after another, was Beijing, followed by New Delhi. So I wanted to, the reason I did this is to underline where the opportunities, but also challenges come from in terms of energy, and therefore with which countries we have to work together. The second, again, this time later in 2015, I once again went to New Delhi towards the end, and we made a study we called India Energy Outlook. Maybe Anil may recall. I released this study to press together with my two good friends, Minister Goyal, who was a power minister, Piyush Goyal at that time, and together with Mr. Pradhan, who was the Petroleum minister. One of the messages, perhaps the key message, in 2015, I shared with the press and the audience was, 6 years ago, India is moving to the center stage of global energy affairs. So India is moving to the center stage of global energy affairs. And when I look at now, in the 6 years past and where we are today, I see that what we have at that time perceived, thought is exactly right. Today, India is at the center of global energy affairs. When you look at different energy sources, technologies, investments, of course, there are challenges. There are still problems, but India achieved a lot. to me, one of the most important achievements has been that under the Prime Minister Modi's leadership, India brought electricity to millions of people, especially in the rural area. I think it was a great, great achievement. So, dear colleagues, let me tell you that how happy I am that as a result of the IEA in the year 2015 deciding to open the doors of the IEA, International Energy Agency, to emerging countries, India is now an associate member of the IEA, and I very much hope to see soon to be a full member of the IEA, and I do everything I can to have this goal achieved. Well, now moving a bit outside of India and looking at the world, what is happening today in the energy world? Dear colleagues, today I am seeing a major trend wherever you go, in Europe, Asia, North America, Africa, which is clean energy transitions. Clean energy sources are growing very, very strongly. And there are two drivers for that. One of them is many governments, in order to benefit from their domestic energy sources, clean energy sources, give priorities to solar, wind, other energy, clean energy sources. This is the one driver. Second driver, however, the cost of these clean energies are coming down significantly. For example, solar energy, it was 10 years ago a romantic story because it was expensive. It was an idea of the many NGOs, people who have really dreams, but today, it is what is happening in the world. In the last 2 years, more than 80% of all power plants installed in the world were solar energy. And 20% all the others put together, coal, gas, wind, nuclear, but solar alone. And it is the reason I believe, as I nicknamed solar as the new king of the global power markets. Now, when I again look at around the world, I see a political momentum as well. It is to address the issue of climate change. Now, this is as we all know, an extremely important topic, because climate change means a lot of extreme weather events, much more heat waves, much more floods, much more drought, and not only the frequency will increase, but the intensity of this extreme weather will increase. And almost all the scientists around the world are completely in agreement with it. And when we look at the evidence, what is happening in the world, this is really taking place, and it is getting day after another a serious issue. Now, energy sector here is at the heart of this problem because, very simple, more than 80% of the emissions causing climate change comes from the energy sector. How we produce energy, how we use energy, it is coming from energy sector, from coal, oil, and gas, from fossil fuels. So therefore, governments around the world are coming with commitments, one after another. United States, Canada, Brazil, all European Union countries, United Kingdom, Japan, Korea, China, South Africa, they are making commitments to a net zero emissions, bring their emissions to net zero by 2050. It is a huge commitment. And when I look at all the countries who made commitments, climate commitments around the world, they make more than 70% of the global economy, global GDP. So it's a serious one. Therefore, at the IEA, we made last May, a few months ago, a study what needs to happen in the energy sector to reach the global energy sector to net zero by 2050. So there are many things need to happen, but if I say very roughly, we have two homeworks worldwide. Number one, especially in the next 10 years, to make most of the technologies which are already with us proven. Solar, wind, hydropower, nuclear power in some countries, electric cars, efficiency policies, these are all with us. We have to see a massive expansion of those. This is number one. But this is not enough. At the same time, we have to push the technologies which are under development, but not yet part of the market, such as different hydrogen applications, advanced battery technologies. There are different carbon capture technologies. So we have to bring these technologies to the market, bring their cost down. To summarize, we have two big jobs. One, to make the most out of the existing clean energy technologies. And second, those clean energy technologies which are in the laboratories, still in the early phases, under development, to make them through R&D, as we have seen in many countries happening today, in the United States, in India, in China, we have to make them through different research and development efforts, as the Mr. Lovraj Kumar did during his public service, bring it to the market. So these are the two basic main jobs we have to do. Now, this would bring, if we are able to do that, to a temperature increase of the planet, maximum 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to historical times. So what does it mean, 1.5 degrees improvement or 1.5 degrees increase? This means if we can limit to 1.5, we can still have a planet which is more or less what we have now. But if it is higher than 1.5, scientists tell us, the rather fragile equilibrium of our planet will be badly distorted, and we will have these extreme weather events. Now, there are, of course, to reach those targets, there are huge challenges. And if I have to pick up one of them, which is for me the fault line of our fight against climate change globally, which is the following. When we look at the next 20 years, more than 90% of the emissions growth will come from emerging countries, India included. But less than 20% of clean energy investments go to emerging countries. So therefore, we need to find mechanisms that the clean energy projects in the emerging countries meet the global capital, money. And how will it happen? It will not happen with the speeches I give, with the reports we report or the others write. I believe there is a historical responsibility here for the developed, rich nations around the world. And in my view, helping to finance clean energy investments in emerging world is, first of all, a very logical way to go for the rich countries. Why? Very simple. To reduce emissions in developing Asia, developing South Africa or Africa costs about half of it costs in the developed countries, much cheaper to reduce the emissions in the developing countries. And as we all know, emissions going to atmosphere from Jakarta or from Paris or from Mumbai or from Detroit or from New York, it has the same effect on everybody. Emissions don't have a passport. So therefore, it is important that the rich countries, developed countries, make use of this opportunity, help to finance the clean energy investments in the emerging countries for their own interest as well. But the second reason, and this is also important, why I believe the developed countries, rich countries, help to finance emerging countries' clean energy investment is a moral responsibility. Dear colleagues, today the climate problem is not a problem of the emissions going to atmosphere today. It is an issue of the emissions going to atmosphere since about 100 years. And when you look at the last 100 years, the bulk of the responsibility of emissions to be sent to atmosphere comes from the developed countries. Therefore, I think developed countries have also a moral responsibility to support the emerging countries and to bring them clean energy technology access. So this is an area I see as a fault line, and I see as perhaps the most critical point to be discussed in Glasgow in November this year. And as International Energy Agency, as I myself, as Fatih Birol, I am going to try to make sure that a fair and just result for all of us, for entire world, comes from Glasgow. Dear colleagues, before going to your questions, I would like to highlight a few things about India and the opportunities that India may have in the next years to come. I mentioned to you that I was very impressed by the electrification process of Indian rural communities. It's a great, great success. Another great success I see is on the renewables front, solar and wind, and the again very challenging, ambitious target of 450 gigawatts of renewables is an excellent one. And I have no doubt that the Indian government, Indian business people, Indian citizens will do everything to reach that very target, because India has huge, huge resources. Having said that, to have solar and wind alone, it is not enough. Especially in solar, we have also with wind, of course, we have the challenge of intermittence. When you look at many countries, for example, in India, the electricity demand is go up when people come home in the evening, turn on the TV, turn on the air conditioners, and there is no sun, of course, at that time. So there is a bit of a issue here. Solar is not 24 hours available. Wind may not be available all the time. The issue of storage, better storage, is a critical issue for India and, of course, many other countries. But I believe, given the specific circumstances in India, I would suggest this as a critical issue. The other one is hydrogen. Now, as Mr. Chairman mentioned, I work on the energy issues since a long time, first in OPEC and then here at the IEA. I have seen many technologies where people disagreed. This is a good one, this is a bad one, and the nuclear different views, renewables different views. But when it comes to hydrogen, everybody loves hydrogen. I have rarely seen any technology that everybody embraces. And there is a big race around the world to make the most out of hydrogen as a great option. And I'm very happy that India has a hydrogen strategy announced by Mr. Prime Minister in November last year. I hope this will be implemented. We have been in discussions with my friend, the Power Minister, Minister R.K. Singh, and I know how closely he is following the developments on the hydrogen area, and we are very happy to support him and his colleagues. A last point in terms of technology I want to mention, in addition to the ones we have, as I said, solar and wind, is the bioenergy. And India has huge potential on bioenergy to support the other fuel sources in a clean way, either directly or blending with different fossil fuel resources and make it more domestic, and also being a part of the low carbon fuels. Now, maybe one last remark, and I will finish, and in the last 15 minutes, happy to get your question. Energy efficiency. This is something that in many countries, in fact, in almost all countries around the world, doesn't get the enough attention it deserves. I will give you one example. Air conditioners. When I look at the developing Asia today, forget Africa as well, developing Asia today, I see that on average, 2 out of 100 households have air conditioners. This compares 98% in Japan and 99% in the United States. With the increasing income levels in developing Asia, people will buy and should buy air conditioners to have a more comfortable living standards. But, ladies and gentlemen, in developing Asia, an air conditioner to provide the same comfort, like in Japan, for example, they use almost 3 times more electricity. They consume 3 times more electricity on average, because they are not efficient in developing Asia. And again, in developing Asia, today, single largest driver of electricity demand growth is air conditioners. If we bring those air conditioners efficiency levels close to, for example, international standards like Japan and others, which doesn't need any discovery of new technologies, etc., just the right policies, then people will get the same thermal comfort, but use less electricity. Therefore, we built less power plants, we keep the money in the pocket, and we have less problem for our planet. Just I wanted to mention this because when we talk about the technologies, we are rightly so discussing on the technologies which are in the laboratories, which are in the R&D phase, research and development phases. But efficiency is, in my view, a very important technology option that we have to take into account. Here, I would like to finish my words and wanted to thank the Mr. Chairman and my friend Anil for giving me this honor to discuss with you, share with you some of my thoughts about the global energy and climate debate, diplomacy, and some modest thoughts about India's challenges and opportunities. And I will be very happy to get your questions if you have any. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Birol. Very interesting presentation, and I think the audience also is quite well informed about the subject, so they have a lot of questions for you there. I'll take a few questions within the permissible time, and you may please control your time because I know you are under time pressure. So whenever you want to stop, you can tell us because we have a lot of questions coming from the audience. Now, one is, as you started with the solar energy and this renewable energies, and in India also we have good big targets on that. The basic elements which are required, which are the success of these technologies, like in terms of the silicon basic material which is required for making these solar cells, as well as in the batteries, the lithium that you're talking about. Now, what is the global position in the production of these materials? And do you think some countries would have monopolies in that? Or do you think countries would be depending on few suppliers around the world? What is your opinion on that?
So let me start with this question, and I have to leave in about 11 minutes. Let me give a brief answer to that.
Yeah, we have some more questions, so whatever you can take.
Yeah, I give brief,
one by one. So that's
yeah, if you wish, you can ask a group of questions, whatever you want, Mr. Chairman. So you are completely right. The more solar panels, windmills, electric cars means the world would need much more, as we call it, critical minerals. And lithium, you mentioned, is one of them, platinum, many of them. As it happens, I would say, unfortunately, a big group of these critical minerals are about 3/4 are owned or refined by 3 or 4 countries around the world. This is a security issue, but the good news is these critical minerals are available in many countries, but not yet up to now get the attraction of the governments or investors. These countries, 3 or 4 countries who are dominating the game, have started much before, earlier, and now the production is in their hands. But there are huge amount of critical minerals under the earth in many countries, and I can tell you that there is a big rush now. Many companies, some of the major coal companies, for example, now turning their business and working on critical minerals. And this is an issue, a security issue. We have to keep an eye on that, but the solution of this issue is easier than, for example, we face in terms of oil security issues in the past. Thank you.
Okay. And the other question is between the carbon capture and sequestration, the blue hydrogen or the green hydrogen? Do you think for a developing economy, what could be the good winning composition proposal?
So I think the carbon capture and storage is a very critical technology, because today 80% of the global energy is coming from fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas. And energy sector is a sector which moves very, very slowly. For example, IT sector is very quick. We change the mobile phones all the time. It is like IT sector is like a bicycle, moves very, very quickly. But energy sector is a big tanker. When you change the direction, it takes some time to find a new way. So therefore, how we decarbonize our fossil fuel-based system, we need carbon capture and storage. If this technology becomes a part of our energy systems now, it will be very helpful for many countries, like many Asian countries who rely on coal, and to make the most out of this. And I can tell you that the carbon capture and storage technology is with us since many years, but we have not seen a big interest now, except in the last 1.5 years. Huge investments are coming, especially coming from the United States, which hopefully will bring the cost down, make it accessible for the developing nations.
Between the two options of, let's say, electric vehicles or the hydrogen economy, considering the distribution, the charging, and all kinds of infrastructure requirements, which one do you think can be the winning option?
Now, for the hydrogen, there are discussions. Either we get the hydrogen directly from the renewable energies, or we use the carbon capture and storage process and make the hydrogen from the fossil fuels. As long as it is clean, we have no problem. The important thing is that it is clean. It helps the decarbonization, and of course, if it is produced from the solar and wind hydrogen, it is much better. But there may be some areas, such as the heavy industry applications. It must be, we may need to use carbon capture and storage to make hydrogen a part of the solution. So yes for green hydrogen, and a conditional yes for the hydrogen, blue hydrogen, if they are in line with the international environmental standards.
What do you think the government role in this could be to facilitate the investments by the industries, by the private sector or the public sector in creating this infrastructure, where the costs are right now today not economical when you talk of sequestration and when you talk of these alternative energy sources? What do you think, how you could facilitate, government could facilitate this?
Yeah. So this climate change is it is a problem for the entire humanity. So if everything, I'm a person who believes that the energy sector is best governed by the market principles. However, the climate change issue is such an issue. If we leave everything to the markets, market forces, we will never ever, in my view, see a world which is in line with our global energy and climate goals. You need governments to be active and, in fact, in the driving seat. In my view, the Glasgow is a very important opportunity for the governments of the world. And in Glasgow, COP26, governments need to give an unmistakable signal to the investors, saying that you investor, if you invest in still in the old energy technologies, you are risking to lose money. And again, you investor, we, the governments of the world, are here showing our determination that the clean energy is the future, and if you invest in the clean energy, you can make money. So therefore, governments are in the driving seat, internationally and nationally, and they have to provide incentives, subsidies, tax breaks, penalties, depending on the, or taxes, as much as possible, financial instruments, as well as regulations, government regulations, in order to put our energy system in line with our energy and climate goals, nationally and internationally. Governments are there in order to look after the interests of the public. If it is so, it is the job of the governments to make sure that without creating distortions in the market, to provide the right investment framework for the good investment to be made and bad investments to not to be made. So this I would say, and I have 2 minutes. I have a hard stop, Mr. Chairman. I really excuse.
Sure. Of course, we are aware of what, conscious about your timing there. And anything would like to talk about the developments in the storage technologies, which you think is more promising?
I think the storage technologies are extremely critical for renewables to be a big part of our solution. Because renewables today, I mean, there are many governments are unfortunately overwhelmingly thinking how we are going to incentivize the renewables in our electricity generation, which is good. But this is only one part of the issue. The other part is we have to think about the electricity security. The solar and wind are not 24 hours there, but the consumers want to have 24 hours electricity. So therefore, here, the battery storage is, in my view, critical to have a successful renewable energy future. And it is the reason I have high expectations. Maybe I can finish with a forecast, as I did in the year 2015, when I said India will be at the center stage of global energy affairs, where India is today. Now I can tell you that we have seen China, in terms of solar, is now being the leader of solar energy around the world. And my forecast is I expect India to play a leading role in terms of battery storage technologies. I see this determination in the government. I see all the reasons why it should be so. And I hope when we come back, hopefully in 5 years of time again, if you invite me, Mr. Chairman, we will see whether or not my forecast proves to be right. But it's not only my forecast, but also my sincere wish for India and for the Indian people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Birol. We are conscious about your timing. I would invite now Dr. Nand to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Birol. I come from a sector, fertilizer sector, where we have been involved with IEA for last several years, especially for projections for ammonia technology, ammonia intensity, and CO2 emissions. And even now IEA is carrying out a study for ammonia technology roadmap for International Fertilizer Association, where I am member of that advisory group. You made 3 important points: that 80% of new power generation is coming in last 2 years from solar energy. You also made a very important point that why developed countries should make investment in developing economies for the green energy, and some very promising features of renewable energy in India. Of course, ammonia is also at the center of discussion as a carrier of hydrogen, not only for producing chemicals or fertilizers, but as a fuel as well. So we hope that there are more commitments from the governments, both in terms of reduction targets as well as investment in COP Glasgow. We are with you, remaining positive on this front, and hope that India will, as you have expected, hope, will do wonders. We have already installed 100 gigawatt of renewable energy and will reach 450 gigawatt as our Prime Minister has committed. Thank you very much once again for illuminating talk or for enlightening about the world stage as well as reference India has vis-a-vis with the world in the field of energy and climate change. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
When the nation joins hands to fight a common enemy, victory is certain. Though this enemy is an alien contagion, it can be no match for the fervor that unites 1.3 billion citizens. The call by the Honorable Prime Minister energy conglomerate, ONGC. Responding swiftly to the crisis arising from the coronavirus pandemic, ONGC started safety measures very early. Employees were asked to prepare and be technologically ready to face any restriction on movements. Work must go on was the intent. Employees who had been working on the offshore locations and onshore locations offered to continue working with extended duty periods away from their families. Our 24/7 operations and their commitment has ensured uninterrupted supply of oil and gas for the nation. They toil in the fields, adhering to all government guidelines of social distancing and hygiene. Giving additional impetus to these efforts, ONGC contributed 300 crore rupees from their CSR fund, and employees gave 2 days' salary amounting to around 16 crore rupees. But ONGC didn't stop there. We reached out to millions who suffered hardships due to the lockdown. All work centers of ONGC across the country distributed relief supplies to the needy and protective gear to frontline fighters like medical professionals, municipal workers, and security staff.
We at ONGC have always risen to the call of the hour. During this national crisis of COVID-19, we have maintained our offshore and onshore operations round the clock to maintain uninterrupted supply of oil and gas to the nation. While maintaining our operations, we have also ensured full compliance of Government of India as well as WHO guidelines like social distancing, maintaining personal hygiene, work from home, and maintaining operations with skeleton staff to contain this pandemic. I firmly believe together we will overcome this national crisis.
Individually and collectively, these humane acts reflect the selfless, committed, responsible, proactive, and energetic spirit of the nation and also of ONGC, a responsible corporate helping every Indian fight this challenge collectively.
Hello, good afternoon. This is IS speaking. Can you hear us?
हम में है उजाला अंधियारा मिटाने का, हम में है हौसला नई उमंग बनाने का, हम में है एक जोश हर मंजिल पाने का, हम में है एक जज्बा हर जिंदगी सजाने का, हम में है जोश, हम में
जो बनाए आपका भविष्य और उज्जवल। हम हैं ONGC।